The lights in the medical bay were dim. Soft humming noise came from the cryopods. They looked like sleeping coffins, all lined up in a row. Each pod held a soldier frozen in time. Alina moved slowly between the pods. She held a small cleaning device in her hand. Her job was simple. Wipe the outside of each cryopod and report any issues. She had done this work many times before. It was boring, but it paid her bills. Alina was not a doctor, not even a nurse. She was just a low-level maintenance worker on the space station Orin 7. No one really noticed her. She liked it that way. She reached pod number 19 and stopped. Glass was foggy from the inside. That was strange. The cryopods were supposed to be cold, very cold. Fog meant heat. And heat meant something was wrong. She placed her hand gently on the glass. It was warm, her heart beat faster. Alina looked. At the nameplate on the pod, there was none. Only a number. X19. That was even stranger. All the other soldiers had names, ranks, even short histories. But this one, just a number. Her eyes scanned the pod again. System showed green, stable. But her gut told her something else. She pressed a button on her cleaning device. The lid of the pod opened with a hiss. Warm air touched her face. That was not normal. The air should be icy cold. Inside the pod, a man lay still. His body was covered with a thin thermal blanket. His skin looked pale but healthy. His black hair was short. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Alina took a deep breath. Just clean and go, she whispered to herself. She reached out and carefully lifted the edge of the blanket to wipe his arm. Suddenly, his fingers moved. Just a small twitch. Alina froze. Maybe it was just a nerve reaction, she thought. That happens sometimes with cryo-sleep patients, but then he moved again. This time his hand turned and grabbed her wrist. Alina gasped loudly. His eyes opened. Bright green, sharp, awake. She tried to pull away, but his grip was strong. What are you doing? Let go, she whispered in panic. The man looked at her without speaking. His breathing was slow, controlled. Then, softly he spoke. Where am I? Alina didn't answer. She was too scared to think. He slowly released her wrist. Alina stepped back, heart racing. You shouldn't be awake, she said. The pod, you're supposed to be in deep cryosleep. He sat up slowly, blinking, as if adjusting to the light. How long? He asked. I don't know. I don't even know who you are, Alina replied, her voice shaking. The man looked around the room. His eyes studied everything like a machine, cold, calculating. Who brought me back? He asked. No one. I just opened the pod to clean. I swear, you were already warm. He looked down at his own hands. Then he pulled back the blanket. On his arm, near the shoulder, was a strange tattoo. A symbol Alina had never seen before. 3 sharp lines, and under them, 2 words. Project Reclaim. Alina stared. What is that? What project? The man didn't answer. Instead, he stood up. His legs shook a little. He hadn't moved in a long time. Alina backed away. I should call the doctor, she said. No, the voice was firm. Not loud, but full of power. They can't know I'm awake, he added. Alina frowned. Why? He looked at her, his green eyes serious. Because they will freeze me again, and this time, they won't wake me up. Alina didn't know what to do. This was not in any of the training manuals. She looked at the man again. He didn't seem dangerous. But something about him felt wrong, maybe too perfect. She took a small step forward. Who are you? She asked. The man turned to look at her. He opened his mouth to speak, but then stopped. He tilted his head as if he heard something far away. What is it? Lena asked. They're coming, he whispered. Who? But he didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the control panel and pressed a button. The pod hissed again, closing and locking itself. He turned to her and said only one word. Hide. Then the door to the cryo room opened, and footsteps echoed inside. The lights in the medical bay were dim. A soft humming noise came from the cryopods. It looked like sleeping coffins, all lined up in a row. Pod held a soldier, frozen in time. Alina moved slowly between the pods. She held a small cleaning device in her hand. Her job was simple. Wipe the outside of each cryopod and report any issues. She had done this work many times before. It was boring, but it paid her bills. Alina was not a doctor, not even a nurse. She was just a low-level maintenance worker on the space station, or N7. No one really noticed her. She liked it that way. She reached pod number 19 and stopped. The glass was foggy from the inside. That was strange. The cryopods were supposed to be cold. Very cold. Fog meant heat. Okay, and heat meant something was wrong. She placed her hand gently on the glass. It was warm. Her heart beat faster. Alina looked. At the nameplate on the pod, there was none, only a number, X19. That was even stranger. All the other soldiers had names, ranks, even short histories. But this one, just a number. Her eyes scanned the pod again. The system showed green, stable. But her gut told her something else. She pressed a button on her cleaning device. The lid of the pod opened with a hiss. Warm air touched her face. That was not normal. The air should be icy cold. Inside the pod, a man lay still. His body was covered with a thin thermal blanket. His skin looked pale but healthy. His black hair was short. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Alina took a deep breath. Just clean and go, she whispered to herself. She reached out and carefully lifted the edge of the blanket to wipe his arm. Suddenly, his fingers moved. Just a small twitch. Alina froze. Maybe it was just a nerve reaction, she thought. That happens, sometimes with cryosleep patients. But then, he moved again. This time, his hand turned and grabbed her wrist. Alina gasped loudly. His eyes opened, bright green, sharp, awake. She tried to pull away, but his grip was strong. "What are you
doing?"
"Let go," she whispered in panic. The man looked at her without speaking. His breathing was slow, controlled. Then softly he spoke. "Where am I?" Alina didn't answer. She was too scared to think. He slowly released her wrist. Alina stepped back, heart racing. You shouldn't be awake," she said. "The pods are supposed to be in deep cryosleep." He sat up slowly, blinking, as if adjusting to the light. "Long?" he asked. I don't know. I don't even know who you are," Alina replied, her voice shaking. The man looked around the room. His eyes studied everything like a machine. Cold, calculating. "Who brought me back?" he asked. "No one. I just opened the pod to clean, I swear." "You were already warm." He looked down at his own hands. Then he pulled back the blanket. On his arm near the shoulder was a strange tattoo, a symbol Alina had never seen before. 3 sharp lines and under them 2 words, Project Reclaim. Alina stared. "What is that?" "What project?" The man didn't answer. Instead he stood up. His legs shook a little. He hadn't moved in a long time. Alina backed away. "I should call the doctor," she said. "No." The voice was firm, not loud but full of power. "They can't know I'm awake," he added. Alina frowned. "Why?" He looked at her, his green eyes serious. "Because they will freeze me again, and this time they won't wake me up." The room fell silent. Alina didn't know what to do. This was not in any of the training manuals. She looked at the man again. He didn't seem dangerous. But something about him felt wrong. Or maybe too perfect. She took a small step forward. "Who are you?" she asked. The man turned to look at her. He opened his mouth to speak, but then stopped. He tilted his head, as if he heard something far away. "What is it?" Alina asked. "They're coming," he whispered. "Who?" But he didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the control panel and pressed a button. Pod hissed again, closing and locking itself. He turned to her and said only one word. "Hide." Then the door to the cryo room opened, and footsteps echoed inside. Alina followed him through the narrow maintenance corridors, their footsteps soft but quick against the metal floor. The air smelled of machine oil and recycled heat. Pipes hissed overhead. The lights flickered as if the station itself was trying to hold its breath. She had no idea where they were going. She wasn't even sure why she was following him. But something inside her, a strange mixture of fear and curiosity, kept her moving. The man, 10 to 19, moved like he had walked those halls 100 times before. His memory seemed sharp, too sharp for someone who had been asleep for 20 years. Finally, they stopped in a small, abandoned storage room. Dust floated in the air. Broken crates were stacked against the walls. X-19 knelt beside one of them and pulled out a hidden panel from the floor. Inside was a small black box, no bigger than Alina's hand. He held it out to her. "This is the only proof I have," he said. She stared at it. Proof of what? He opened the box. Inside was a small device, glowing faintly. A memory chip. But this one didn't look like anything Alina had seen before. The circuits pulsed in patterns like it was breathing. "It holds the last recording of the Reclaim program. The truth about what they did to us," he said. Alina looked at him, uncertain. "Us? You mean there were others?" "There were 12 of us, recruited from different colonies, chosen because we showed signs of resistance." "Resistance? To what?" He looked at her with eyes that suddenly seemed older than time. "The enemy didn't attack with guns. They attacked with thoughts, with sound, spoken ways we couldn't understand, and suddenly soldiers turned their weapons on their own." Alina felt chills down her spine. They could get inside. "Your head?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "They didn't need to invade Earth. They just needed to be heard." She looked down at the device again. "And you survived that." "No, I died. Or at least part of me did." His voice grew softer. "They changed us, built something inside us to fight back. But it came with a cost." Alina didn't understand, not fully. But she could see pain in his eyes. Whatever he had been through, it had left scars deeper than flesh. Before she could ask more, a faint sound echoed through the corridor behind them. A metallic ping, then another. X-19 was on his feet instantly, pressing the floor panel back into place and motioning her to stay low. The door creaked open. Alina held her breath. A small flying orb floated into the room. A scout drone. Class. Its red eye scanned slowly, sweeping the room in a grid pattern. She could hear her own heartbeat. The drone paused midair, then beeped softly. Its eye turned toward their hiding place. X-19 didn't move, didn't breathe. The drone hovered. Closer then, in a blur, X-19 lunged forward. He grabbed the drone midair with one hand and slammed it to the ground. The lights on it blinked wildly for a second, then faded out. Alina stood up, shaking. "How did they find us?" "They didn't," he said, breathing hard. "That was a scan sweep. But now they'll know something's wrong." We looked at her. "We have to move. I need access to the main system. It's the files I left behind. They hold answers." Alina frowned. "They'll never give us access. I don't need permission. I just need you to get me inside." She hesitated. Helping him now wasn't just dangerous, it was criminal. If they were caught, she'd be marked as a traitor. But then again, what was the alternative? Go back to cleaning cryopods while the truth stayed buried. She nodded slowly. "I know a way into the central terminal, but it's high security." "If we're caught, we won't be," he interrupted. "You're smarter than them. That's why I chose you." They left the storage room and made their way down into the engineering levels. The station felt different now, like it was watching them. Every door beep sounded louder. Every shadow felt like a trap. At last, they reached a maintenance shaft near the command deck. Alina used her ID to unlock the panel. A narrow ladder led up into darkness. "You go first," she whispered. "I'll follow." 10 to 19 climbed with ease. Like his body remembered things, his mind didn't. Alina followed, her hands shaking with every rung. When they reached the top, they entered a crawl space above the command deck. Below them, officers walked around, checking data, talking softly. X-19 pointed at a terminal near the far wall. "That's the uplink point," he said. "If I connect the device there, I can find the full reclaim logs. Then what?" He looked at her. Then you'll understand why. They buried me. They waited for the lights to dim for the scheduled power cycle. When it did, they dropped down. Lena stayed by the door, keeping watch. K6L moved to the terminal and plugged in the device. The screen flashed. Lines of code began to stream. Alina glanced back. No one had seen them yet. Then the screen changed. A face appeared. An older man wearing a military uniform. "This is Commander Holt, recording day 137 of Reclaim operations. We lost subjects 3, 4, 7, and 11 today. Neural collapse." Lena's blood went cold. The alien signal continues to mutate. Subject X19 remains stable, emotionless, efficient, but I question if we created something worse than our enemy. The recording skipped. "If X19 ever awakens without direct control, terminate immediately. He is not human anymore." The file ended. Alina turned toward X19. He was staring at the screen, jaw clenched. "They lied to us. I volunteered to protect Earth, but I was just a weapon to them." She stepped closer. "What will you do now?" He looked at her not with anger, but with sadness. "I don't know yet, but I need to find the others. Any of them are still alive. We're not finished." Suddenly, the screen beeped again. A new signal was coming in, not human. A deep, echoing sound played through the speakers, like a whisper from space. X-19 grabbed the device and yanked it. "Out, it's them," he said, and for the first time, Alina saw real fear in his eyes. Alina had never seen his hand shake before. X-19 held the memory device tight in his palm, staring at the dark terminal screen as if something might still reach through it. His body was still, but something in his eyes had shifted something. Buried deep now, rising to the surface. "What was that sound?" she asked softly, her voice nearly lost in the hum of the power systems. He didn't look at her. "It wasn't a sound," he said. "Not the way you hear sound. It's a signal, like a thought that forces its way into your head. It's the beginning of their voice." "The aliens?" He nodded slowly. Alina's stomach twisted. She wanted to believe this was just a nightmare, a strange mistake. But she had heard it too, that low whisper, vibrating behind her eyes more than her ears. It wasn't just noise. It had meaning. She didn't know how, but she felt it, like it knew her. Name before she ever said it. She touched his arm. "We have to go." That noise could have triggered a scan. Someone might have heard it. X-19 blinked out of his trance and nodded. "You're right, this place isn't safe anymore." They climbed back into the maintenance shaft, sealing the hatch behind them. The space station felt colder now, more distant. What once had been home to Alina now felt like a cage. Every door seemed like a trap. Every hallway a tunnel leading to something darker. They moved through back corridors for hours, avoiding main routes, avoiding people. Alina led the way this time. The layout of Orin 7 was etched into her brain after years of routine work. 4. Once. That boring knowledge was useful. They finally reached an old transport tunnel, one that hadn't been used since the upper colony pods were damaged by debris years ago. Inside, it smelled like rust and dust. Light flickered, and metal groaned in the ceiling like something alive was crawling above them. Alina slumped against the wall, her legs weak from stress and fear. "You said you want to find the others. But how?" "The file said the project was shut down. They lied about me." "Probably lied about the others too," he said. "There were 12 of us. They locked me away, but maybe not all of them. But if they're still frozen, then we wake them." Alina looked at him. "You want to wake more people like you? It might not be a good idea." He looked away. "It's not about good or bad. The signal is back. We won't survive alone. We were built to resist it, but only together can we stop it." There was silence between them for a long time. The only sound was the distant hum of the station's life support. Finally, Alina said, "Then we'll need to get off Orin 7. He turned to her, surprised. "You'd help me do that?" "Said you need someone to trust," she replied. "And I need answers." His expression softened. "Thank you." They used the old tunnel system to reach one of the exterior hangars. It was mostly empty, but there were a few short-range ships docked for repair. One of them, an old cargo runner, still had partial fuel. X-19 checked the systems while Alina scanned for alerts. So far, no red flags. Either they hadn't been discovered, or something worse, they had been discovered, and no one wanted to stop them. Just before boarding, X-19 stopped and looked back. "I need to know something," he said quietly. "Why didn't you report me when I woke up?" Alina hesitated, surprised by the question. "I don't know. Maybe because I saw something in your eyes. You weren't just a machine like they described. You were scared, and not for yourself." He nodded once, like that meant something more than she understood. The cargo runner lifted off from Orin 7 in silence, its old thrusters rumbling like a dying animal. Outside the viewing window, stars stretched like frozen fire. Orin 7 grew smaller behind them, swallowed by the void. They didn't speak much during the flight. Both of them stared at the stars in silence, each trapped in their own thoughts. 2 hours later, the ship's proximity scanner beeped. Alina sat up. "Are we being followed?" 10-19 leaned over the console. "No, it's something else. A signal. It's weak, but familiar." She watched as he fine-tuned the frequency. A soft voice came through, broken, crackling, barely more than static. "Echo, reclaim, Sector 9, shield down." Alina looked at him. "That's one of the others, maybe. Or a trap," he said. "But I know that voice. It's Subject 6. Her name was Ava." Alina's pulse quickened. "Where is Sector 9? "It's not a sector," he said slowly. "It's a colony. One that was abandoned after the First Contact War." He entered the coordinates into the ship's navigation. A dark zone, far from any trade routes. No known activity for over decade. The ship changed course. As they traveled deeper into space, the stars began to disappear behind clouds of dust and radiation fields. The space around them grew darker, heavier. Alina shivered. "It feels like we're entering something we're not meant to find." 10-19 said nothing. His eyes were locked on the scanner. His breathing had changed. Then he whispered almost to himself, "They're already here." Alina leaned closer. "Who?" He turned to her slowly. "The enemy. They never left." The ship shook gently as it entered the gravity well of the dead colony. Sector 9 appeared ahead like a ghost. Space around it was thick with dust and radiation clouds, swirling like fog with no wind. The colony hung in orbit above a cracked planet, one side bathed in silent fire, the other in endless night. No beacons flashed. No ships came or went. No transmissions except one. "Echo, reclaim, shield down." "Ooh!" The same words repeated every 6 minutes. A fading voice that sounded more like memory than message. Alina leaned forward in her seat, watching the derelict colony grow larger in the window. It looked abandoned. Windows were shattered. Parts of the structure had collapsed, drifting slowly like bones in water. But something about it felt wrong. Not just broken, but still alive, in a way that had nothing to do with electricity or... Mom, MENTX-19, stood beside her, silent. "Are you sure she's here?" Alina asked. He didn't answer right away. "It's her voice. I remember it. Before the experiments, she used to sing to keep herself calm." Alina blinked. "Sing. I thought they made you all into weapons." "They tried. But not all of us lost everything." He looked out the window. Eva was different. "She fought the signal longer than any of us. But in the end," they said, her mind cracked. "They erased her from the logs." Alina didn't know what to say. All her life, she'd thought war was about bullets and soldiers and tactics. She never imagined it could come down to whispers and broken minds. The ship docked with the colony, using an emergency magnetic clamp. There was no atmosphere inside the docking bay. The airlock had long since failed. They suited up and entered. Inside, the station was cold and dry. Every step echoed like footsteps in a grave. Old blood was frozen. In streaks along the floor, walls were scorched, covered in blast marks. Doors hung open at strange angles, like someone had been dragged through them. As they moved deeper, Alina began to feel something like a low pressure in her chest. It was hard to breathe, even with her oxygen mask. Her thoughts felt heavy. Slow, uncertain. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Caps 19 didn't answer. His eyes were scanning every wall, every shadow. Then he stopped. "Here," he said, pointing at a sealed door. Behind this, the control panel was dead. Lena pulled a power cell from her pack and rewired it. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a dark, narrow hallway. They stepped inside. It wasn't a hallway. It was a recording chamber. Screens lined the walls. Dozens of them. Most were cracked, but a few flickered to life. Faces appeared brief. Flashes of men and women strapped to chairs, screaming, laughing, whispering words not meant for human tongues. Alina's knees nearly gave out. "What is this place?" she whispered. X-19 walked to the center of the room. There, under a thick glass panel, lay a cryo bed different from the others. Organic tubes ran into the ceiling, pulsing faintly like veins. A figure was inside, curled. Still, it was a woman. Her hair was white. Her eyes were closed. Her arms were crossed tightly over her chest. X-19 stared through the glass. Unmoving. "It's her," he said. Alina stepped closer. "Ava, she's alive, but barely. The signal didn't kill her. It put her to sleep." He reached out and touched the glass. She was the last test. They didn't know what to do with her, so they'd buried her here. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The screen on the wall behind them switched on. It was Ava. She was younger in the video. Eyes sharp, expression calm. "If this message is playing," she said, "then someone found me. Listen carefully. The signal is not just a weapon. It's a mind, a presence. It speaks because it thinks, and it wants to be heard." Her voice trembled. "We are not fighting a war. We are feeding a voice that grows stronger with every mind it touches." 10-19 clenched his jaw. She knew. She tried to warn them, Alina whispered. Ava continued. "I let the signal in, just a little, enough to understand. I saw what it wants, not control, not power. It wants to become us, to live through. Us." The video ended. Alina stared at the screen, mind racing. "What do? We wake her," X-19 said. "She's the only one who made contact and survived. But what if she's not herself anymore?" He looked at her. "Neither am I." He reached for the cryo controls. The system was still active barely. He rerouted emergency power and began the wake-up cycle. Steam hissed as the chamber warmed. Yelena stood back, heart pounding. The pressure in her head grew stronger. Suddenly Ava's eyes opened, not slowly, not gently. They snapped open like floodlights. She sat up fast, gasping. Her body shook violently. Her mouth opened, and for a second no sound came out. Then she screamed. Not a normal scream. The sound was layered, voices within voices. Male and female, young and old. It rang inside Alina's skull, like it was coming from inside her. X-19 grabbed Ava's shoulders. "Ava, it's me. Calm down." Her eyes focused. Her breathing slowed. "X," she whispered. "They're almost here." "Who?" Ava turned slowly toward Alina. "Not who," she said. "What?" She reached up and touched her temple. "I didn't just hear them. I remember being them." Alina's skin turned cold. "They left something inside me," Ava said, voice trembling. "And now that I'm awake, they'll come for all of us." The lights exploded above them. Sparks rained down outside. Something knocked loudly on the outer hole. X-19 pulled Alina and Ava toward the escape corridor. "We have to leave now." Yes. They ran. Alina heard a new sound behind them. A voice. Not a scream. Not a whisper. Something in between. And it spoke her name. The voice echoed through the airless corridors of the broken colony. It didn't vibrate the walls. It vibrated the mind. Alina stumbled as it repeated her name again slow, drawn out, as if testing how it tasted in its mouth. Ilinaya. She pressed her palms against her ears, but the sound was inside her head, slipping past her thoughts like fog. X-19 grabbed her wrist and pulled her along as sparks dropped from above, and the colony creaked under pressure. Ava followed behind, clutching her side, pale and trembling. Whatever the signal had left in her was waking up with her. They ran through the shattered docking tunnels toward the cargo runner. The lights flickered in rhythm, now not random but patterned, like a pulse, a heartbeat, no alarms, no security systems. Nothing mechanical responded, just that one sound, Alina. When they reached the ship, Alina collapsed into the pilot's seat, gasping for air. Helmet was still sealed, but she felt like she was drowning in her own thoughts. Into the co-pilot chair, shaking. "They found us," Ava whispered. "I didn't think they would come this fast." 10 to 19 strapped himself into the system's console. "They've been watching through you, haven't they?" "I don't know anymore," Ava said. "When I slept, I could feel them walking through. My dreams. I think they saw the stars through my eyes." Alina tried to start the engine, but the panel blinked red. Power flux. Something's jamming the reactor's start. "They're inside the ship," X-19 muttered. "No," Ava said, voice flat. "They are the ship now." The walls around them hummed, not loud, not threatening.
"I like a lullaby,"
sung from a great distance. Then all at once, everything went silent. No blinking lights, no sounds. Even Alina's breathing sounded too loud in the stillness. A soft blue glow began to rise from the control panels. Shapes formed in the light lines, symbols, circles shifting in and out like memories trying to take shape. Alina stared. "I've seen this before," she said. X-19 looked at her, confused. "Where? I don't know, but I remember it. These patterns. They feel like childhood." Ava looked up slowly, her eyes glowing faintly now. "Not human anymore. You were exposed," she said to Alina. "Long ago, you heard the A signal when you were too young to understand it, but it stayed inside you." "No," Alina said. "I would have remembered." "You do remember," Ava said softly. "Just not as something alien. You remember it as dreams, as sounds you thought weren't real, as instincts, as fear in the dark." Alina's mind spun. Her mouth went dry. She remembered something now. A field of white flowers. Strange tune. In the wind. Her father screaming during a blackout when she was 5. The radio had turned on by itself, playing a voice that didn't speak any language they knew. She had forgotten. But not completely. They never needed to attack Earth with ships, Ava said. They only needed a way in, a back door. "That door, Alina, know?" she said, shaking her head. "I'm nobody, I just clean pods." X-19 stepped forward, eyes locked on her. "You've always been part of this? That's why you were drawn to my pod. Why you didn't run." "You're not just helping this story, you're inside it." Alina stared at the console. The symbols made sense now. Not like words, more like directions, movements, emotion. She touched the panel. It responded. The ship powered up. The engine hummed to life like it had been waiting for her hand. The blue glow faded, and regular systems returned. No more voices, no more pressure in her skull. Just silence. Ava watched her with a mix of fear and awe. "You stabilized the link?" Ava whispered. "You're not just a host. You're a key." Alina sat back. "What does that mean?" "It means they won't kill you," Ava said. "They'll follow you, wait for you. You're how they survive now." 10 to 19 looked out the window. The colony had begun to collapse, pulled apart from within. A black shadow rippled across the stars, like ink spreading in water. "We need to go," he said. Now, the ship detached and launched into space. The stars whipping past them as they broke free of the gravity pull. Behind them, Sector 9 cracked like glass. Silent. Empty, but not dead. Something still floated inside the remains. Something watching them leave in the cockpit. Alina sat silently, hands clenched around the controls. Her mind burned with questions. Not just about the signal or the aliens, but about herself. What else had she forgotten? X-19 sat beside her, eyes forward. "They'll come after us," she said. He nodded. "They already are." Ava leaned back, eyes half closed. "Then we go to the last place they fear." "Where's that?" Lena asked. Ava opened her eyes. Again, where they first touched us. The origin point. Lena blinked. You mean Earth? No, Ava said. Before Earth. Before memory. Before time as we know it. 10 to 19 looked at Alina. We'll need to go deeper than space. Ava finished the sentence for him. We need to go into the mind. Lena didn't understand. Not yet, but she would. Because even now, buried in the quiet of her thoughts, she could feel something stir. It was waiting. The ship drifted through the edge of nowhere. There were no stars now, no colonies, no debris. Only a strange quiet that pressed against the hull like thick, invisible air. Time felt slower here. Lena wasn't sure how long they'd been traveling. The console clocks had stopped counting hours. The ship's lights dimmed without reason, and the navigation maps showed nothing but static. She looked through the window and saw something not space, not light. A curtain of black folded over. Itself, again and again, like space was sleeping. This is it, Ava said, her voice softer than ever. The origin point? Alina asked. No, this is the path to it, Ava said. But we can't go there with engines. It's not a place in space. It's a place inside us. 10 to 19 stood near the center of the ship, his arms crossed. He hadn't said much since Ava told them the truth, that the signal wasn't just alien. It was alive in a way humans couldn't define. Not evil, not good. Just a form of thought that needed minds the way lungs needed air. They call it memoryspace, Ava continued. A place where all minds connect when they touch the signal. You've both been there before, Alina said. Ava nodded, but only on the edge. We dipped into it through sleep, through dreams, through forced experiments. And me. Ava's eyes met hers. You're the first to carry the key. You never dipped. You were born with part of it inside. Lena felt her heartbeat thud. Harder. So what do? We go in, Ava said. Together. To 19 stepped forward now. Da-da-da-da-da. But it must be her mind that opens the door, not ours. Alina sat slowly, letting the weight of that truth sink into her chest. What happens if I do open it? Ava's face was pale. Then we either rewrite everything or vanish completely. They lay on the floor of the ship, heads connected by a thin neural link military tech once used for combat syncing. Now repurposed for something no human ever dared to attempt. Close your eyes, X-19 whispered. Let the memory come too. You, Alina, shut her eyes at first. There was only darkness. Then the field of white flowers again. It's the same one from her childhood. The wind was soft, warm. But the flowers weren't real. They breathed. They watched her. She turned. A small girl stood a few feet away. It was her. Herself, at 5 years old. But the child's eyes were silver. You don't remember everything, the child said? Not in a voice, but in feeling. Alina walked closer. What am I? You're a door, the child said, left open too long. The flowers turned to ash. The sky cracked. Alina fell. Suddenly, she was in a lab, machines everywhere. She saw herself on a table. Scientists stood over her. She wasn't a janitor. She wasn't an accident. She was chosen. She was placed on Orange 7. Not to clean pods, but to wake X-19. She'd done it before. Many times it was a loop. Every time. The signal reached too far. A human was activated. Always her. Always him. The same roles. The same escape. Over and over. But this time, something changed. She felt a presence behind her. Massive. Quiet. The voice spoke not in English, not in sound. In understanding, you see now. Alina turned. There was no shape, no face. Only thought, what do you want from us? She asked. You? To stay? To join? To help us become what? Real? Alina looked down at her hands. They flickered like thoughts, struggling to stay solid. I'm not a key, she said. I'm a weapon. No. The signal said, you're a choice. The world shattered again. Alina woke up gasping. The ship was dark, silent. X-19 and Ava lay beside her, still breathing. But they were different now, glowing faintly at the temples. Connected, she stood and moved to the window. Outside, stars were Being born, literally new lights blossomed in the void, not from explosions, but from memory. From decision, she understood. The signal wasn't destroying humanity, it was mirroring it. Every fear, every war, every violent memory yet reflected them, copied them, fed on them, but it could learn, and it just had. X-19 sat up. You spoke to IH. Yes? Did it attack you? No. Ava opened her eyes. What now? Alina looked at them both. We teach it. Teach it what? 10 to 19 asked. How to be US without becoming our worst parts. And if it refuses? Alina smiled, a tired, sad smile. Then I shut the door. X-19 stood beside her. How? She opened her hand. The memory device pulsed in her palm. I carry the loop, carry the history, carry the key, she said. If I die here, the loop ends. Silence. Then Ava placed her hand over Alina's. We're with you. And just like that, light filled the ship not from power, but from something deeper. Acceptance. Understanding they were not soldiers. Anymore not test subjects, not survivors. They were the first bridge between two kinds of thought. The ship turned. Heading back toward the known stars, the voice echoed one last time, soft, grateful learning. Alina, she closed her eyes and smiled.